Hello, everyone. I'm Mark,
I'm Rob.
and welcome to Mark and Rob's Sports Showdown. This is the day after, this is Monday morning, May 20th, and we're doing a recap of the games last night and this in the afternoon. Two game sevens we have, and there's also a preview of Caitlin Clark's fourth game. That's tonight at 7 at ESPN. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell when you subscribe. Make some comments, please. Intelligent ones who aren't insulting are best. And Rob, what was your take on the Knicks Indiana game?
Well, I mean, what can you do? They played. I think they. I'm just going to go over quickly for the season. They played very hard. They were predicted to finish fourth or sixth in the standings, and they ended up being in second place. And they showed their grit, even though they lost. They lost Brunson again. They lost another key player, but they just kept playing hard and fighting hard. But they just didn't have enough players. So I give them. I mean, you think I should be sad, but I'm actually very kind of optimistic about next year. But that's the way it happens. If you keep losing players, you don't have the right players, so you're not gonna win the game. So, but I give them kudos, and I think they played a great game. They even brought it down to 6 points, which was, pretty good for not having your stars in there. So, as far as effort, it's effort and this playing the game as hard as you can and not just giving up because of something happens. That I think they had a great season.
All right, I was impressed. They put more effort into anyone else in the playoffs as far as I was concerned. And I mean, basically had their second unit in there at the end of the second half. So yeah. I mean, if you look at the play, when the season, maybe 3/4 way through the season since Randall got injured, that's basically their second unit. And even when he was in Hart, he wasn't even full capacity. He was injured, so I was really impressed with how they fought. And DiVincenzo was great, and I think he's going to have a breakout year next year. So that's my personal opinion.
Yeah,
I'm not saying he's going to have a good year this year. I'm just saying I think he's going to have a break. I think he got a lot of confidence from playing well in the playoffs. That's just my guess.
I think with the Knicks, even people usually it's outside of only New York that people were really excited about the Knicks. I think they turned a lot of heads for people outside of New York. Finally, that they were actually rooting for them. People outside of New York were actually like, "Whoa, these Knicks can play hard." Anybody who loves basketball is probably going like, "Hey, wow, this team is really scrappy. They're playing hard, despite they're not whining about their injuries or anything. They just go out and let's go out and play." So I think they turned a lot of people towards the Knicks, which normally outside of New York, which was pretty cool.
I think they'll be very competitive next year. I'm not going to say they're the favorites with Boston winning 6 games this year, but they are certainly going to be one of the favorites to come in second or third. So we'll see what happens. I think Bronson also got a lot of confidence from the playoffs. He played well during the regular season, obviously because he was 5th in the MVP voting. But I think he got even more confidence in the playoffs, and I think he's going to be an MVP candidate for sure at the top next year. Who knows who's going to win it next year because there's a lot of candidates. But go ahead. What do you want to say?
I think what hurt also him was that during the season when Randall was playing, Randall would bring the ball up sometimes, so that took some pressure off of Brunson. So that kind of played off each other. But when he was now the principal person bringing the ball up, put a lot of pressure. But he handled it well. He's one of the. He was. We'll do a video about that. Who was the best player so far in the playoffs? He definitely was the best player.
Who, Bronson?
Players, yeah, of all the players.
Jokic was up there. I mean,
who?
Jokic was up there for best player.
No, I mean, Brunson he tied records with Michael Jordan and I forgot who else, but I mean, Jokic, yeah.
But Jokic, I'm talking overall, and he had a lot of assists and rebounds too. So you can't just go by points. I'm just saying.
Well, he also. Well, you have to. He played well. You played well.
I'm not saying he's not up there. He's obviously Brunson. You can argue for him, and I'm arguing. I think there's a good argument to make for Jokic played better than anyone else.
Well, both of them are out now. So
and Anthony Edwards played really well. I think it's close. Doncic played well, and he played injured. I know Brunson played injured too, But anyways, there was a lot of great performances, but a lot of them are out now. So Anthony Edwards is still in. No one in Boston been super. I mean, Tatum and Jaylen Brown been solid, but no one's been say super. So I would say those players up there. So yesterday's game, it was unfortunate. Indiana played better defense than they were playing. Of course, it's easier when the other team's best players aren't on there, but they played better defense than they were before. So Hamilton was doing a lot of talking. He's going to have a little bit of a awakening when he plays Boston, especially when Boston gets 100% healthy. So we'll see what happens. But he did play well. I mean, he shot threes well, and he played well, and I think their team played well, but they did have the advantage of playing a team that was depleted.
Yeah. So I mean, this is I'll probably surprise you with this, but I'm rooting for Boston to defeat them.
No, I'm not surprised.
I'm definitely rooting for Boston because not because of they definitely have the advantage, but also Indiana, they lucked out twice. I mean, with Milwaukee Bucks, they didn't have their 2 star players, and now the Knicks, they had like 4 of their starters. So, like you said,
I agree. I don't think they're going to beat Boston. I don't know how many games it's going to be. If, like I said, if Game 6 was in a neutral site, I'd take them in 6. But they're going to win at least one game. They had enough offensive firepower to beat. But whether it's going to be 5 games or 7, I don't know, or 6, I don't know. I'll have to think about that.
If they think the refs were against them now, just stick with Boston when they're playing in Boston. They're not going to get any calls.
Well, we'll see about that. But they had a very balanced attack. 20, 19, 17, 20, and 26 just off their starters. So, but they shot 54% for threes and 67% for shooting percentage, which is an all-time record.
Yeah, they were shooting like 72%. I was looking at during the game, they were shooting like 72%. I'm like, how can you beat a team? I mean, usually the average is like if you're shooting 50.
And the Knicks were still in the game. They got it down to 6 against a team that was red hot. I was impressed with how Knicks were able to do that. The crowd was crazy for a while, but
yeah, I was like, oh I can't believe this.
And TJ McConnell, man, what a spark plug off the bench. I don't know how you can't want that guy on your team, even if he's not a starter. He just made so many hustle plays.
Well, the Sixers had him, and they didn't want him, so.
Yeah, well, he had an assist, a block, but he had 7 assists, a steal, a block, and he was 6 for 8, and he scored 12 points, and he was a plus 21 when he was out there. So I was really impressed with him.
Yeah,
Everton had a really good game, though. He was 6 for 12 for threes, and also had 6 assists, a steal, and a block. So.
Yeah, he's a key factor for them coming off the bench with assists, rebounds, and scoring. He's got that's what I'm trying to tell these young kids. He's got a mid-range game. He comes in, hits those little 12-foot shots, and it helps out. He comes in off the bench and hits like 3 or 4 of those. That's 6 points right there. Instead of trying to come in and bombing the 3-pointers. I mean, he's a good example of where the mid-range game really helps your team.
Yeah, I gotta say, DiVincenzo, man, was great. The whole playoffs, he's been great. He scored 39 points, 11 for 21, 9 for 15 in threes. And he even chipped in 4 rebounds. So and 2 steals. So he played great. But yeah, the Knicks have a bright future. So it's the end of the season for them. We won't see the New York Cat again till October 20th next year.
October 20th, yeah. Well, I like the Mets. You might see a Mets hat, even though we're not doing baseball. You might see a Mets hat on.
A Mets? Okay. Yeah. All right. We're not a baseball channel, but if something when the playoffs come around, and if the Mets and the Phillies are in the playoffs, we'll talk about that. Because I'm in Philadelphia and I'm not a big baseball fan, but I will be rooting for the Phillies. Anyways, so that was the first game. It was unfortunate for New York that they had to deal with so many injuries. I would have liked to seen that. You taking Boston in how many games, Rob?
5. I'll give Boston 5.
Boston in 5? Okay. I'll go Boston in 5 only because the Pacers don't play consistent defense.
Right.
But I can see 5, 6, or 7. I can see the Pacers giving them a hard time because I don't think Boston is consistent enough with their team game. They play too much one-on-one stuff, and they're not consistent enough with their defense either. But they're clearly more talented. But the first 2 games, Porzingis is definitely out, they said. Mm-hmm. So it sounds like he's going to be back for the finals, but whether he's going to be back for the Eastern Conference Finals is unclear. If they make the finals, obviously. So the other game also set a record for the biggest comeback at halftime, and they were in a seventh game. They were down by 15, and the record was 11, the biggest comeback ever in Game 7. And Minnesota came roaring back and even got a 10-point lead after being down by 20. They outscored them by 30, and they ended up winning by 8. And that's kind of surprising, not only because Denver was at home and the defending champs, but they were healthy. It didn't look to me like Jokic was tired, but it didn't look like to me Murray was injured. So, which is like the first 2 games. So it's kind of surprising they got outscored by 30 points at home in a 7th game with a healthy team, defending champs, and the best player in the team. That surprises me. Michael Jordan would have never let the other team outscore them 30 points in a playoff game.
Yeah, they only Denver only scored 14 points in the third quarter. It was the 28-14 difference right there. Yeah, I was very surprised.
If they're going to have to try to beat Minnesota next year or whatever, I know that centers aren't really centers anymore, and they're not a big priority for people. But Jokic needs to play fewer than 47 minutes. That's why his 3-point shooting was poor, because he was tired.
Yeah.
So, Rob, I was confused at the end of the game. Around 35 seconds left, Denver got the shot off they needed on a screen for a 3-point shot. It didn't go in, but they're only down by 7. And after the rebound, there was like 33 seconds left. Right. And nobody fouled. Jokic was ready to fall over. Okay, that's not his fault. He played 47 minutes. But the other 4 players, nobody was there for the rebound. Nobody was there to get the foul right after the rebound. They're like going back on defense. Like, that's not going to do any good. You're down by 7 with 33 seconds, and you have to foul right away. Right. It made no sense, because then they foul when there's like 10, 15 seconds left after they let like 10, 15 seconds go off the clock. It was too late then.
Yeah, it's too late.
Well,
I noticed that too. I was like, I was like, you're screaming. I'm screaming at the screen, like, foul. I'm like,
it's like they gave up. Wait, I don't know why you give up with 33 seconds left and 7 points, not with a 3-point shot available these days. I don't understand that. They look like they were self-defeating attitude. I don't understand. That would have never happened.
They were thinking. I have no idea what they were thinking. But I was yelling. I was yelling at the screen like, foul.
Not only foul, it's like they pulled back when after the shot, like, there's nobody was there to even try for the offensive rebound, or nobody there just knowing they had to foul right away if it didn't go in.
Yeah, or pressure the ball. I mean, not even up on the ball. It's not foul.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. They all played a lot of minutes, but still, they had enough energy to do it. Except Jokic, so he looked like he was ready to keel over.
Yeah.
But I don't understand that at all. That was very confusing to me.
I agree. Yeah.
And other than 3-point shooting, Jokic played really well, though. He had 19 rebounds and 7 assists, and he scored 34 points. And Murray actually played well.
Right.
35. And so, there was some trash talking between Edwards and Murray throughout the series. And my brother saw Edwards do some trash talking to Murray. I forget which game it was, and saying, Murray wasn't having any part of it. Well, Edwards later said in an interview today that Murray started the trash talking in this series. So that's the impression I got from what he was saying. So whatever, Edwards had the last laugh, but Murray didn't play poorly. He's 13 for 27, so he shot pretty well, and he had 3 assists and 35 points. But Porter didn't come up, and Gordon didn't.
Yeah, that's what I said. That he's the key person for them in order for them to win. Edwards, though, Edwards didn't have a good game. He was 6 for 24, 2 for 10 with 3 pointers, only 16.
No, he didn't shoot well, but he had other things.
Yeah, well, that's what you do. He did other things: rebound, play defense. That's what you do if your shot's not falling. He did was rebounds and assists. So he had 7 assists, and
he pulled a Michael Jordan, where if your shot's not falling, he did other things. He had 8 rebounds, 7 assists, and 2 steals. And only 1 turnover, which is a lot, not a lot, which is good for someone who handles the ball a lot, And so, but he gave MVP to McDaniels, because McDaniels was 7 for 10.
Oh, yeah. McDaniels,
2 steals and a block and 6 rebounds. and again, he plays good defense too. But
Yeah, he does.
they figured out how to slow down Jokic a little bit. A little bit. He still had 7 assists and like 34 points, but they haven't figured out how to stop him. But it didn't matter because the other players didn't produce.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I was with like I said, with Porter not producing, that hurt the Nuggets a lot. Also, the blow 20-point, but you have a 20-point lead. How can you in the final at home? What's going on with that?
I said that when we were watching the game. I said to my friend, if this was an away game, there's a pretty good chance they'd come back with 20 points. But at a home game, it's harder because you don't get the crowd all excited, and it goes into a frenzy when you're a home team when you're behind by 20, and they get it down to 6 like in Madison Square Garden in the next game. But they were able to do it as an away team, which is really hard to do. You have no crowd support to get you really pumped up. By the way, Karl-Anthony Towns gets some crap, but he played well. He played good defense. He had 12 rebounds, 23 points. He was 8 for 14. He didn't shoot well from 3 points. He's 1 for 6, but he still played well. He played, and even Gobert, and then Gobert did that turnaround jumper that I didn't even know he had.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
So I mean, the other surprising thing is that so-called factor, the mile high factor. Minnesota won 3 games in Denver.
Yeah, well, 2 of them Murray was injured, but yes, they would have won. They would have won game 1 and game 2 anyways because they crushed them. But right, yeah. I get it.
To win 3 games in Denver, that's a great feat too.
Yeah, it is. So they're all right. So I don't know what else you want to say about that series, but Minnesota looks like they have a good future, but they still have to beat Dallas to just get to the finals. And Dallas is, they're they were only like a 5 seed, right? But they finished the season strong, and they're playing well. So I'm taking Minnesota, but I think it might be a 7-game series. I think Dallas is playing well enough to really push them.
Yeah, I mean, and Irving hasn't really, the past 2 or 3 games, Irving hasn't really scored that much either. So I mean, it's kind of scary if he all of a sudden starts coming out. It's going to be the series. I say around 6. I give it about 6 for Minnesota.
Okay, you're taking them to win on the home court. That's what's tough about making predictions when you think one team is better than the other team, but not more than a little. And the 6th game is going to be away. It's tough, but it happens. People win.
Like on paper, they think, this on paper this team should be winning. But like I said, with like the Knicks showed, even though on paper it should have been like this. You go out, the teams go out there like Minnesota and go out there and play hard.
Well, I think a lot of people got these series wrong. I got the Celtics right in just the exact number of games, but none of the other ones I got right. Of course, if the Knicks weren't injured, they would have won the series, but they didn't. And I had Denver, and they didn't win. And I had OKC, and they didn't win. And so did almost everybody else. And you had OKC going to the finals, so they're out. So I had Denver going to the finals, so they're out. So, but a lot of other people got it wrong too. So there's usually not this many upsets because of the 7-game series. Unlike March Madness where it's 1 game. The NBA has got fewer upsets than other leagues, actually, because of the home court advantage at 65% and things like that. So they have fewer upsets than baseball or in hockey. Hockey has more upsets. Boston last year, they had the best record in the league, and they can't even get out of the first round.
I mean, that's why I think this year, Mark, was the most exciting playoffs I've seen in a while. I mean, normally, like I said, they're usually very predictable, and you're like, okay, this team's. But this one was so unpredictable, and the team's playing so hard. It was very exciting. It was one of the few, it really got the interest back for me, at least.
I'm going to repeat my analogy I did on another video where I said the difference between the defense and the intensity in a regular season compared to the playoffs in the NBA is night and day isn't strong enough. I would say the bright sun compared to the dark side of the moon is more analogy that's better for the contrast between the level of play. And that's why I don't watch much regular season basketball because it's just.
When I watch regular season, I always watch that fourth quarter because that's when the team is.
Fourth quarter, right? Because that's the only time the intensity's there.
Yeah.
I understand. Yeah, I mean, that's one thing to do. But anyways, I think the playoffs have been great so far. Okay, so we got the Timberwolves in 7, and I guess Boston in 5, but it could go anything. and I still have Boston winning, but right now I'm taking Boston over the Timberwolves in 7. That's what I'm taking right now.
For the finals.
Yeah, given that Denver's out, yeah, I'm taking Boston
Okay.
over the Timberwolves in 7. But that's going to be a great series.
Yeah.
And I'm curious as to is Anthony Edwards, if they both make it in, Anthony Edwards is going to be up against who in Boston? Is going to be Jaylen Brown or what? Who's going to cover him? Interesting to see what happens. Or Drew Holiday, I guess, is going to cover him most of the time. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. They still have to win their series. Indiana is inconsistent with defense, but they have an explosive offense, and so
right.
you don't know what's going to happen. I didn't think nobody thought Dallas was going to win.
Right. Yeah.
And they did, and they won. They closed it out. After losing the first game, they won 4 or 5. So all right, well that's it. So Caitlin Clark has her game number 4 tonight, and they're playing against the number 3 team in the from last year, actually. So Connecticut Sun, who has a really good defensive team. So I'm not expecting a big explosion from her, but she's getting more used to her teammates. And I think she'll, have another solid game. We'll find out what happens. She needs to cut down on the turnovers. And we have a live show tonight. It's at 7:00. Rob has a prior engagement. I'll be doing the live show. And we'll talk a little bit about the 2 games today and a preview of the 2 series coming up. And we'll talk a little bit about Caitlin Clark, obviously. And she plays at 7, so that'll be on tape. I'll go watch it after I get off the live show. It's from 7. It starts at 7. Our show's from 7 to 8 tonight. Anything else you want to add, Rob?
No, just that I want to give like I said, to the Knicks. You played, a great season and a great series. I'm like I said, I can't be sad. I'm more enthused about. I've never been more enthused about my team losing
for next year
than the Knicks. Yeah, the next year than the Knicks. So
you haven't been this enthused since they lost in Game 7.
Yeah, exactly.
Or if Starks hits like one shot, they might have been champions.
Well, he should have stopped shooting. That's another story.
That's what I said. I said that. And my friend who does
not making his threes.
Right. My friend said, well, that was a team that almost anybody couldn't create their own shot except for Starks and you. And I go, still, when you're that cold, do something else and then let it come back later or something like that. You don't just keep shooting and shooting like a.
Yeah, I was like, get a layup or something. I was like, oh. Whatever. Anyway, yeah. That's...
All right, that's past history for the Knicks. Anyways, all right. So hey, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet, and like the videos and share it with your family and friends. Make some intelligent, non-insulting comments, and we'll see you next time. We'll have a live show tonight, and we'll do another preview of the other games coming up on Wednesday and Tuesday. All right. See you later.
Peace out.